Hello, and welcome to TerraNash. I'm Aiden, your narrator for tonight. Let's take this time together to step away from the rush of the day and ease into a world of dreams and wonder. Tonight, I'll tell you a story called The Cloud's Silver Lining. It's a gentle tale about a small, grey cloud who doesn't yet know its purpose. With the help of a wise old eagle and a journey through the sky, the cloud discovers something truly beautiful hidden within. A quiet reminder that even in the heaviest moments, hope and light are never far away. But before we begin, we'd love to hear from you. Where are you listening from? And what time is it as you settle in to hear this story? We'd also love to know what kinds of stories you'd enjoy next. Your thoughts and suggestions inspire us, so please share them in the comments below. If you'd like even more from us, you can check out our Patreon for early access to all our stories and a curated Spotify playlist as well. And if you've been enjoying our bedtime stories, subscribing is a simple and free way to support us. Your support means the world to us, and together we can make TerraNash an even more peaceful place for storytelling. Now, take a deep breath in and slowly let it out. Feel the air settle around you, soft and warm. Let the day fall away like leaves on a gentle breeze. Close your eyes if you like, or simply relax wherever you are. Imagine a wide open sky above, painted in twilight blue. Somewhere far above, a little cloud begins to drift. And that's where our story begins. High above the earth, where the air was cool and quiet, a small grey cloud drifted slowly across the sky. It wasn't fluffy like the others, or bright like the sunlit ones that danced through the blue. This little cloud was soft and low and carried a weight it didn't quite understand. It looked down often, watching the world unfold below. Children chasing butterflies in gardens, rivers sparkling under golden light, wind playing with the leaves of tall trees. Everything seemed so alive, so sure of where it belonged. But the cloud wasn't sure where it was going. It floated from one patch of sky to the next, never staying long, never really feeling welcome. The sun would peek out from behind it and cast long shadows, and sometimes the birds would fly a little lower, as if they were trying to avoid its gloom. Maybe I'm in the way, the cloud thought, sighing in a whispery puff. Maybe I don't belong up here at all. There were other clouds, of course, big ones and bright ones that roared with thunder or painted sunsets with color. They seemed important, like they had a job to do. But this little grey cloud felt quiet and unsure, as though it had missed its chance to matter. It wondered if anyone noticed it at all, or if it was simply passing through the sky, forgotten. A gentle breeze nudged its side as if to comfort it, but the cloud barely moved. It lingered above a still lake for a while, watching its grey reflection ripple across the water. "What am I supposed to be?" It murmured softly, but there was no answer, only the quiet hum of the sky and the soft hush of the wind. And so, the lonely little cloud drifted on, uncertain and unseen, carrying the quiet weight of not knowing who it was or why it floated at all. As the little grey cloud wandered across the sky, the wind began to pick up gently around it, not in a rush or a storm, but like a soft voice trying to speak. The breeze curled around the cloud's edges, brushing against it like a friend's hand on your shoulder. "You're not alone, little one," the wind whispered, barely louder than a sigh. "Everyone has a purpose, even if they don't see it yet." The cloud swirled slightly, unsure whether to listen. "But I don't feel special," it replied in a voice so faint that only the wind could hear. "I'm not bright. I don't roar. I don't paint the skies. I'm just grey." The wind danced higher for a moment, then circled back down like a leaf twirling through the air. "Being grey doesn't mean you're without light," it said kindly. "Even shadows are born from the sun." Still, the cloud didn't quite understand. It looked out across the vast sky, where golden sunlight touched the edges of billowy clouds and stretched long beams of warmth toward the earth below. Birds glided through the air in smooth patterns, and far off in the distance, a rainbow faded slowly over a distant hill. "See all that?" the wind said, noticing the cloud's gaze. "Everything up here and down there plays a part. You're not forgotten. Sometimes the quietest ones carry the most beautiful things." The cloud turned inward, trying to hold on to those words. It didn't feel beautiful. It didn't feel like it carried anything at all. But there was something comforting in the way the wind spoke. Like a lullaby it had always known, but never heard. "Keep floating," the wind encouraged as it began to drift onward. "Your time will come." And though the cloud still didn't know what that meant, it followed the breeze across the sky, just a little lighter than before. The little grey cloud drifted quietly over forests and fields, passing above gentle hills and sleepy towns, until one evening it found itself hovering near a line of towering mountains. Their snowy peaks reached high into the sky, brushing against the last golden rays of the setting sun. The air here was colder, clearer, and somehow more still, as though the world had paused to breathe. The cloud lingered, drawn to the silence and strength of the mountains. Below, the slopes were blanketed in white, and pine trees stood like watchful sentinels. It felt safe here, far from the busy skies it had passed through. Then, from the cliffs below, a shadow rose into the air. Broad wings outstretched, feathers gleaming with age and wisdom. An eagle, regal and steady, soared upward in wide circles. His eyes, sharp yet gentle, caught the cloud's gaze. With a few powerful beats of his wings, he reached the same height and glided beside it, floating on the same wind. "You look like a traveler with questions," the eagle said, his voice deep and calm. The cloud hesitated, unsure how to answer. "I don't know what I am," it finally replied. "I've wandered so far, but I still don't feel like I belong." The eagle tilted his head, observing the cloud with thoughtful eyes. "Many wander," he said, "but few realize they're carrying something within them, something meant to be shared." The cloud dimmed a little, as if embarrassed. "I'm not like the others. I don't shine. I don't rumble. I just drift. What could I possibly have to give?" The eagle circled once more, then landed briefly on a rocky outcrop that jutted toward the sky. He looked up at the cloud, now hovering just above him. "You hold a silver lining," he said simply. "A gift the world is waiting for." The words hung in the air, like snowflakes that hadn't yet touched the ground. "A silver lining," the cloud repeated, puzzled. "But I've never seen it." "That doesn't mean it isn't there," the eagle replied. "Sometimes our brightest parts are hidden until the right moment. But when that moment comes, you'll understand. Just don't stop drifting, and don't stop wondering." With that, the eagle spread his wings and soared back into the sky, vanishing into the golden haze of dusk. The cloud remained for a while, hovering above the silent mountain peaks, the eagle's words echoing gently through its heart. A silver lining, a gift. It didn't understand yet, but for the first time, it wanted to. Guided by the quiet strength of the eagle's words, the little grey cloud floated onward with a new kind of curiosity in its heart. The mountains slowly faded behind, their snowy crowns glowing under moonlight, and the cloud moved across rolling hills blanketed in soft lavender and dusky green. Night had come, and with it, a gentle hush that wrapped around the land like a warm blanket. Below, sleepy farms twinkled with warm lights from cottage windows. Cows rested beneath trees, owls perched silently on wooden fences, and fireflies blinked like tiny stars scattered through the fields. The cloud watched it all in wonder, though it still didn't feel any different. It felt more awake, more present, as if it were beginning to see the world with new eyes. It remembered what the eagle had said. Sometimes our brightest parts are hidden until the right moment. But what moment was that? And how would it know? As the night deepened, the cloud noticed a small cluster of clouds nearby, gathered around the moon. They shimmered faintly, edged with silver light, whispering softly among themselves. The little grey cloud hesitated, unsure whether to float closer, but something in their stillness felt welcoming, so it drifted in quietly. The other clouds didn't speak to it directly, but they didn't move away either. They simply allowed it to join them, to float together in the peaceful dark. A sense of belonging stirred gently in the cloud's center, not loud or overwhelming, but like a soft light flickering behind a curtain. Then, as the hours passed and dawn neared, the other clouds began to shift and thin, returning to the distant corners of the sky. The little grey cloud remained, now alone once more, but no longer lonely. It had felt something, acceptance, perhaps, or simply peace. Below, the first light of morning began to touch the hills, and dew gathered on the grass like tiny mirrors. Birds stretched their wings. Flowers turned their faces toward the light. The world was waking, and the cloud watched in silence. Maybe it didn't need to rush to understand. Maybe this journey, the drifting, the quiet wandering, that was part of its purpose too. And so, with the soft glow of morning on its back, the little cloud continued on, heart a little fuller than the day before, but then as morning unfolded gently across the land, the little grey cloud floated higher into the soft pastel sky. Hues of pale gold and gentle pink spread like watercolor across the horizon, brushing past its edges and warming the cool grey of its mist. Though the cloud still felt heavy with questions, the light seemed to soften something within it, as if even the sky was offering quiet encouragement. Drifting over a quiet meadow, the cloud noticed something unusual. A flock of birds flying in slow, graceful spirals, not in their usual hurried paths. They weren't going anywhere in particular. They were simply circling, gliding, calling to one another in songs that sounded like laughter carried by the wind. The cloud slowed, mesmerized by their movements. A smaller bird, a swallow with wings like tiny commas, darted near the cloud and chirped curiously. "Why do you fly in circles?" the cloud asked, its voice like a soft sigh. "Because the sky is full of secrets," the swallow replied, twirling once in midair. "And sometimes you have to go around and around to notice them." The cloud drifted slowly in thought. "I floated far, but I still don't understand what I'm meant to do." The swallow flitted closer, a playful glint in its eyes. "Not everything is meant to be understood all at once. Some things unfold like petals or like rain." "Rain," the cloud echoed, glancing downward. It had felt that weight inside again lately, a soft swelling pressure, as though something within wanted to fall but couldn't quite let go. "Do you think I might be a rain cloud." "Maybe," the swallow said, looping gently in the air. "Or maybe you're something more. Some clouds rain, some thunder, and some bring rainbows." The cloud blinked at the mention. "Rainbows?" "Oh yes," the swallow sang as it soared upward. "They only appear when sunlight passes through the rain just right. But not every cloud gets to see their own." Before the cloud could ask more, the swallow joined the others and disappeared into the brightening sky. But the words stayed. A sky full of secrets. Rainbows that needed both sunlight and rain. The cloud held those thoughts close as it floated higher, feeling that growing fullness inside. Not a burden anymore, but something ready. It didn't know when or where, but it could feel it. A moment was coming. Something within was beginning to change. By the time the little grey cloud reached the valley, the sky had begun to shift. The light grew dimmer, not with sadness, but with stillness. Like the pause before a song begins. The birds had flown low. Trees stood quiet and still. The breeze, once playful, now moved with intention, curling through the tall grass like a message carried in silence. The cloud floated lower, drawn by a weight that now pulsed gently within it. The fullness it had felt earlier was growing stronger. It wasn't heavy in a burdensome way. It was more like something waiting to be released, like the deep breath held just before a sigh. As the cloud moved, other clouds began to gather in the sky around it. Some were large and dark, others small and soft. They came not in fear or warning, but with quiet understanding, as though they sensed the moment was near. The grey cloud found itself surrounded, not alone now, but part of something bigger. Below, the valley darkened in soft shadow. Children were called indoors. Birds found shelter in the trees. A hush fell over the world, and the little grey cloud hovered at the center of it all, unsure of what to do next. "I feel full," it whispered, its mist trembling slightly. "But I'm afraid. What if what I carry isn't good?" A voice replied, not from the sky or the wind, but from within. A memory. The eagle's words, still warm and steady. "You hold a silver lining, a gift the world is waiting for." The cloud trembled. The weight inside it surged gently, like a wave rising to meet the shore. It didn't know what would happen next, but it understood now that the only way forward was to let go, to trust. And so, in a single breathless moment, the little grey cloud began to release. Raindrops formed at its edges. Tiny, glistening pearls that slipped from its body and fell toward the earth. one by one at first, then in a graceful, steady fall. It was not a storm of anger or sorrow. It was soft, like a lullaby, gentle, like a kiss goodnight. The earth drank in the rain with quiet gratitude. Leaves opened, soil softened. Petals lifted their faces to the sky. The cloud felt lighter with every drop, not because it had lost something, but because it had finally shared what it had carried for so long. And as the rain fell, something shimmered faintly behind it. A hush swept across the valley. The air held its breath. Something beautiful was beginning to appear. As the rain continued its gentle descent, the little grey cloud felt its form beginning to shift. No longer heavy, no longer unsure. It floated with a new lightness, as if something deep inside had been quietly unlocked. Each raindrop that fell seemed to carry a piece of its worry, its questions, its long-held doubt, leaving behind only stillness and clarity. Below, the valley came alive in its own quiet way. Leaves sparkled, the grass shone, and the rivers, once low and sluggish, began to ripple with joy. The world welcomed the rain like an old friend, one who had arrived not to cause trouble, but to renew, to restore. And then, as the final raindrops drifted downward, the clouds around the little one began to part, just slightly. A beam of sunlight slipped through, soft as a whispered promise. It touched the misty edges of the little grey cloud, and something happened. A glow. At first, it was faint, like moonlight seen through morning fog. But slowly, steadily, the glow brightened. From within the cloud's center, a silver shimmer began to unfold, stretching outward in graceful silken threads. It wasn't loud or blinding. It was calm, quiet, gentle. The little grey cloud looked at itself, now wrapped in silver light, and for the first time, it felt beautiful. Not in a way that needed praise or applause, but in a way that was true, whole. This is my silver lining, the cloud whispered, awestruck. The light, now reflecting through the last wisps of mist and raindrops, refracted outward, casting faint colours into the air. A soft arc of colour began to form on the horizon. Red, orange, gold, green, blue, violet. Faint at first, then growing, blooming like a garden across the sky. A rainbow. It stretched gently over the valley, delicate and perfect. People paused to look. Children pressed their noses to windows. Animals turned their faces upward. For a moment, the whole world seemed to hold still in wonder. The little grey cloud watched from above, heart glowing with warmth. It hadn't forced this beauty into being. It hadn't chased it or tried to be anything else. It had simply let go, and in doing so, found its true self. Its gift. The silver lining wasn't something the cloud had to search for. It had always been there, waiting for the right moment to be seen. The rainbow lingered in the sky, stretching across the valley with colours so soft and vivid they seemed to sing in the quiet morning light. The world below had changed, almost imperceptibly, but it was different. The air felt fresher, the earth a little richer, the sky clearer. Everything seemed brighter, more full of possibility, and at the heart of it all was the little cloud, its silver lining glowing quietly in the vast expanse above. For the first time in its journey, the cloud didn't feel alone. It didn't feel like a drifter or a mistake. It had a purpose, a gift that was now shared with the world below. The rain had fallen, yes, but it had brought more than just water. It had brought renewal. It had brought light in a way the world had not expected. As the rainbow arced across the valley, the little cloud felt a deep, soothing warmth within itself. It could see how the world had opened to the gift it had given, how the people below were smiling, pointing at the sky, holding their children close as they marveled at the colors, how the trees seemed to sway with the wind in rhythm to an unspoken song. The world had found joy, and in that joy, the cloud realized it had been part of something beautiful. The eagle's words echoed softly through the cloud's mind. Sometimes, the quietest ones carry the most beautiful things. The little cloud understood now. It had never needed to be loud, never needed to be like the other clouds that rumbled or shone brightly with heat. Its gift had always been in its softness, its gentleness, its quiet presence. And as the rainbow began to fade, a sense of peace settled over the valley. The cloud watched as the last colors melted into the sky, like a sigh of contentment. It could have floated away, returned to its solitary drifting, but instead, it stayed. There was no rush, no need to leave. Its gift had been shared, and for now, that was enough. As the last remnants of the rainbow faded into the soft blue of the sky, the cloud felt a new kind of knowing, a quiet understanding of its place in the world. It had once been unsure of its purpose, but now it knew. It was a bearer of light, a keeper of silver linings, a quiet presence in the vast sky, here to bring a little brightness when the world needed it most. And with that, the little grey cloud, now shimmering in silver, floated peacefully on, knowing that it had found its true place in the sky. Days passed, and the little grey cloud drifted onward, but something had changed. No longer did it feel like a mere traveller moving aimlessly across the vast sky. Now, it moved with purpose, with an understanding that what it carried within it was not only a gift, but a source of connection. It had shared its silver lining with the world below, and in return, it had received something even more beautiful, a sense of belonging. The skies were clearer now, the air fresher, as if everything had been gently washed and renewed by the rain it had brought. The valley below was alive with a quiet hum, as though the land itself had drawn a deep, grateful breath. Wild flowers bloomed in the meadows, birds sang sweeter songs, and the rivers flowed with more joy than before. All of it had been touched by the cloud's gift, its silver lining, and the rainbow that followed. The little cloud, now full of light and peace, moved across the sky like a soft melody. Its silver glow remained, not a bright shine, but a steady, subtle presence, like the lingering warmth of a sunset. Everywhere it went, the sky seemed to brighten in small ways. Shadows seemed softer, the wind gentler. People below looked up more often, smiling at the calm, at the peace that had settled over their world. But the cloud knew that the time was coming when it would have to let go again. The rainbow had faded, the rain had fallen, and its silver lining had been shared. And though it felt content in this moment, it understood that nothing stays forever. Light, too, must eventually give way to the dark, only to rise again in time. One evening, as the sky turned to a deep lavender and stars began to shimmer like soft diamonds, the little grey cloud found itself near a quiet forest. Below, the world was still, the trees standing tall and peaceful, their branches gently swaying with the evening breeze. The air was crisp, the last colours of sunset fading behind the hills, and for the first time in what felt like a long while, the cloud felt a deep sense of completion. It hovered just above the treetops, watching as a family of deer grazed quietly in the meadow. The air smelled of pine and fresh earth. The world was at rest, and the cloud realized it too was ready to rest. The gift it had carried, its silver lining, had already been shared, and it had brought beauty, peace, and light to the world. It didn't need to do more. It didn't need to keep moving endlessly. For now, it could simply exist, floating peacefully in the stillness of the evening sky, knowing that it had fulfilled its purpose. As the night deepened and the stars twinkled brighter, the cloud felt a warmth inside, not because of the light it had carried, but because of the joy it had brought to others. It had learned that the most beautiful things weren't always the loudest or the grandest. Sometimes it was the quiet things, the soft, hidden gifts that could bring the most light into the world. And so, the little grey cloud, now shimmering with its silver lining, settled softly into the night sky. It didn't need to rush anywhere. It didn't need to chase after anything. For in this moment, it knew that the world was brighter because it had been there, sharing its gift. And that was enough. As the days passed and the world below continued to hum with life, the little grey cloud found itself drifting back toward the valley where it had first shared its gift. The rainbow had faded. The rain had long since fallen. But the memory of the light it had brought remained. The world below, once shadowed in the uncertainty of a grey day, now felt full of quiet joy. There was a softness in the air, a peace that lingered like the afterglow of a sunset. The land had been touched by something beautiful, and though the cloud knew its part in that story had come to a close, it felt no sadness, only a quiet contentment. The cloud floated above the valley, looking down at the fields and forests that had once seemed so far away, so separate from its own journey. But now, everything felt connected. It could see the way the flowers had bloomed more brightly after the rain, how the rivers flowed more freely, and how the people who lived below had begun to look up at the sky with greater wonder. The little grey cloud realized that its gift had been far more than just rain. It had been a reminder that even the darkest moments, even the greyest days, held within them the potential for beauty and light. Now, as the cloud floated peacefully under a wide open sky, it began to notice the change in itself. The silver lining that had once seemed so new and unfamiliar was now a part of it, woven into the very fabric of its being. The cloud understood now that it didn't have to seek out its purpose or rush towards some far-off destination. Its purpose had always been there, in the very softness of its being, waiting to unfold in the right moment. The sky around it was beginning to clear, the last wisps of cloud fading into the blue. It was as if the sky itself was stretching out, ready to embrace a new day. And yet, the little grey cloud didn't feel like it was leaving anything behind. It wasn't departing with regret or longing. It was simply letting go, trusting that its place in the world had been fulfilled, at least for now. As the sun began to dip low on the horizon, casting golden light across the fields, the little grey cloud felt a soft breeze stir around it. It was gentle, soothing, like a soft caress on the cheek. The wind carried a new message, one that the cloud understood deep in its heart. It's time to rest. It's time to begin anew. And so, the cloud did not fight it. It let the breeze guide it, gently carrying it away from the valley it had once filled with its light. The little cloud didn't know where it was going, but it didn't need to know. It had already given what it had come to share. It had brought rain. It had brought a rainbow. And most importantly, it had brought hope. As the cloud drifted peacefully into the vast open sky, it realized that its journey was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. There would be other skies to fill, other valleys to touch, and other rainbows to cast. But for now, the cloud was content to simply exist in the quiet stillness of the night, knowing that it had fulfilled its purpose. And as it moved with the wind, its silver lining shimmering gently in the fading light, the little grey cloud felt the most beautiful peace, one that came from knowing that it had been a part of something far greater than itself, something beautiful, something lasting, something that would never truly fade. For every cloud has a silver lining, and sometimes it just takes a little time for the world to see it. And so, with a heart full of peace, the little grey cloud continued its journey through the sky, ready for whatever came next.